Right, everyone. Me, Will Pugh. No James Jones this week. I'll be quite honest with all of you. I didn't want to do a podcast this early in the week. I didn't want to be speaking to Patch Warner from Three Peeps in a Podcast, who has joined me for this opposition view. I wanted to wait until later in the week, do a little Sheffield United opposition view, and then me and James come back next week. As it is, thanks to West Ham, 1-0 up after 4 minutes against Bristol City. Couldn't hold on to that lead and in fact threw it away, and we're probably lucky to get away with a draw in the end. So that means we've got a replay at Ashton Gate on Tuesday night in the FA Cup, which means here I am Monday morning, 10 o'clock, shoehorning a podcast in to speak to you all. I hope, Patch, thanks for joining us. You're not offended by my stance and you can understand exactly why I didn't want to be doing this podcast. But the fact I have to, I am delighted it's you that's joining me to do it.
Oh, fantastic. No, thanks for having me on, mate. Yeah, I think all of the players, the coaches, the staff, everyone, even the former players that were in the Royal East Lounge milling around with us, like Marlon Harewood, who's actually a former City player as well. The last
Hang
thing
on
he
a
said
minute.
to me,
Royal East Lounge. What's all this about then? There's 9,000 away tickets behind the goal.
I wanted to be able to see both the game and the 9,000 fans in a comfortable seat on the side, not watching it with binoculars and things like that. But Marlon Harewood said to me,
I've been in the Royal East Lounge before. I know there's buffet food in there. I know you get a few free beers. Don't give me all that about there. I wanted to see the away fans.
I didn't think I'd be sipping on espresso martinis and things like that at West Ham's ground, I must admit. But it was fantastic. Great experience. And as I say, Marlon said there's no chance of a replay. Last thing he said to me. So, waiting to hear a reply on his thoughts on that.
Happy days, mate. Happy days. Well, look, obviously, Jared Bowen puts West Ham up after 4 minutes. And really, it's the exact sort of thing that West Ham fans of the Moyes in or out persuasion have been moaning about all season, really. We have a tendency to start games really well, and we basically play well for the first and last 15 minutes of games, typically, not all the time, but when there's been moans about our performances, that's typically what's happened. And same thing happened again. Great start, couldn't have been better, really. Jared Bowen after 4 minutes, and you think, here we go, nice, and you want it to be nice and routine games like that, and it felt that was going to happen. And then not to take away from Bristol City's performance, I thought you played really well. Decent side. I think that performance certainly doesn't, or your championship position, I think you're 14th after the weekend defeat at Preston, doesn't really belie that sort of performance. And I thought you played well, but ultimately the Premier League team, 6th in the league at home, the onus is on us to take that game to you. Great strike, I would just say. Tommy Conway getting the equaliser. Again, with the claret and blue glasses on, you're going to look at the defending as opposed to what an amazing goal it was. And, credit as well, would just say as well, the limbs, as people like to say, behind the goal. Not from you, of course. I'm sure you were knee-deep in your fourth espresso martini. But
well, we definitely were. We were kind of told not to celebrate in hospitality. But when that goal went in, I think we lost control of our limbs, unfortunately. So, yeah.
But no, I mean, look, obviously just to sort of give the listeners my sort of stance on it, it's just one of them frustrating ones. Everyone was annoyed afterwards. They adds another game in, cut short our sort of winter break, whatever that's supposed to be this time around. And I think with the games we've got coming up, it's one of those ones where really the draw was the worst result. Lucas Paqueta gets injured, as does Jared Bowen, and it probably couldn't have gone worse. But that's what lots of people are saying. I don't necessarily feel like that, because I think, if we come through the replay, you still want to be in the FA Cup. Some fans have got a slightly different view. I still think a draw and being in the competition is better than going out. But I understand where some fans are thinking. What was your sort of view on the game then from a Bristol City perspective?
Yeah, not the greatest start, and that kind of started to make you think, oh goodness gracious me, what's going to happen in this game? But we grew into it. We we know that when we all perform, the players, that is, and the fans, when we perform a 7 or 8 out of 10, we can match anybody. It's just 11 players on a pitch playing against 11 players on a pitch, and I have to say that we did that. We sort of sprang into gear, stuck to the game plan, caused lots of problems down the flanks with Cam Pring, bombing down the left-hand side. Tommy Conway obviously was up for it, as was Joe Williams, who I thought was magnificent. He's been a tough tackling midfielder for us in the last, it's certainly in the last few games and throughout the time he's played for us as well. So I think everyone just upped their game. Max O'Leary made a couple of worldy saves, so he kept us in it quite early on. I think you almost went 2-0 up with a close range effort, and Max O'Leary pulled out a great save. So yeah, I think everyone just went up a little gear, and we gave you a good game. And I just think Jared Bowen kind of drifted out of the game a little bit, and obviously he started really well. So yeah, I think it was a good performance, and one that we were hoping to take into Preston on Saturday, but that didn't come to fruition.
No, I think that's the sort of thing that West Ham fans would look at and go, for God's sake, what is going on here? Preston went above you into 12th, didn't they, with that 2-0 win, couple of goals from Will Keane. It is Will Keane, I'm assuming, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
And yeah, I think from a West Ham perspective, we start. It's one of those things, right? I was looking at it, and it's so easy to come out with negatives after a game and go, it's such a joke. Paquette's injured, Bowen's injured, and that is dreadful bad luck. But it's also one of those where those same fans, some people are just determined to be negative or whatever happens, would be going, oh, why are we disrespecting the FA Cup? Why aren't we putting our stronger team out against Bristol City? And it's like, well, you do that. There's always, it's just easy, isn't it? In hindsight, there would have been criticism. Like if we'd have won that game, which we should have done from the position we were in, we'd have gone on and been 2 or 3 up at half time, which, like you say, if it wasn't for that, 2-0 would be easily feasible. Then you could have taken some of those players off, and it all looks like, excellently game managed. But it's so easy for fans, I'm talking about West Ham fans here, and they're all football fans, to forget that there's an opposition team trying to negate what it is that you're doing.
It's kind of how it works.
Yeah, but fans just sort of go, just play a strong team, just go 2-0 up, and then just take all the players off, as if there's no other outcome. Bristol City have got no sort of way of intervening in any of those well-made plans, and you played a good game of football, I thought. Yeah,
and it's a bit like us. We seem to struggle against some of the lower league opposition. When we play higher league opposition, or even teams like yourself, we seem to just when you come at us and other teams come at us, we just seem to that's how we get the best out of our team as well.
Yeah, so same with West Ham. Yeah.
So yeah, when obviously you play against a lower league opposition like us, it's that, I don't know if it's a mindset thing or the expectation or what, but when we play against team, like we went to Birmingham a few weeks ago, and Wayne Rooney basically admitted, I think, he parked the bus, and we struggled to break him down.
It worked, didn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, that was really frustrating. But I just wish we could play against teams like you every week and get a good performance out of boys.
Yeah, quite, mate, quite. So was it the overall sort of feeling among supporters, I guess, was a good one?
It was a memorable day out from start to finish. Obviously, all the problems with the transport. It's all of these sort of that builds to the story of the day and things like that. It'd be a memorable day. A lot of people would none of the City fans would have been to the London Stadium to watch Bristol City, that's for sure. I went to watch the Foo Fighters there a couple of years ago and thought, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to play, watch a game here one day, hopefully with Bristol City, and that came to fruition, and 9,000 plus a few extras over in the hospitality was quite an occasion.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Come on, and where were you sat for the Foo Fighters? Were you in the director's box? And let me guess, backstage, were you in Dave Grohl's rider?
I was on guitar, mate. Actually, yeah, I was just to the side.
Yeah, absolutely. What happened with that? I mean, complete side note. Because Taylor Hawkins, the drummer, died, and that's cancelled some London Stadium gigs, which I had tickets for.
Yes,
And
me
then I
too.
can't remember why I didn't come around, because we got refunded for them, and then
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think I must have been on holiday or something last year. But
Yeah,
what's
I
it
can't
like
remember if it
actually?
was,
While you're on, just quickly, we might as well have a little
why not?
sort of side step, if you like. A, what's the stadium like when you go and watch concerts there? B, what was your opinion of it? Because it gets a bit of a bad rap, London Stadium, but what was your opinion of it as a first-time visitor for a football game?
Yeah, so for the concert, I remember it was just the acoustics are fantastic, and they were great on Sunday as well. That's one thing that some stadiums struggle with. You can't always hear the stadium announcer, but I thought that was all nailed on. Yeah, the concert was amazing. Foo Fighters are fantastic, and I think we were sat opposite the stage, right, quite far back in the probably where the away fans were sat on Sunday. So it was quite a way back, but didn't deter. It was easy to get a drink. All of that seemed all nailed, and they must have taken a lot of lessons learned from the Olympics to get that sorted, because it would have been a similar vibe. But yeah, the comments from the away fans initially were how far they were away from the pitch, obviously, because you've got that running track effectively around the pitch, and then there's that weird sort of separation between the upper tier and the lower tier, where it's like a flat roof. I don't quite know what that's about.
That's because the lower tier seats are temporary stands to move close to the pitch, because for the Olympics, so I know it still appears like there's a running track around it, but actually if you look behind, underneath that flat roof where the canvas basically is, all of the original Olympic seats are still there.
Oh wow.
So that whole lower tier behind either goal are like temporary, basically.
Got it. Okay.
So
I was wondering
that's why
what that was
it's just
about.
a random bit of racked seating in 50 foot in front of the upper tier.
Yeah, but obviously you guys filled it as well, so the atmosphere was incredible. It felt like I was watching the game almost at Wembley. It had that sort of feel to it, which added to the whole atmosphere and the achievement, really. So it was a great day, a great experience. We parked at Stratford at Westfield shopping centre, and ate in a barbecue restaurant. I can't remember what it was called, but it was fantastic. It just had barbecue on the front of Best Barbecue or something like that. It's literally the first place we came across, and I thought that'll do. Quick bit of food, bit of a few drinks in there, and then across, and that walk across with all it was like a mini Wembley way with City fans and West Ham fans, and everyone was up for it. There was no animosity. After the game, we went to a pub nearby as well, and I sat on a table with quite a lot of West Ham fans, and they were bigging us up and saying how much they enjoyed it. And one thing that sort of struck with me was, see, because you've got a big following and you get 60 odd thousand, you can rarely get a ticket for an away game unless you've got some special membership and season tickets that you've gone to a number of away games. And I just thought, I go to quite a lot of away matches as well as the home matches for Bristol City, and to have that thought of not being able to go and watch your team, I hadn't really thought about that, and that's probably the same for a lot of Premier League sides. Go to Bournemouth, you probably only get 1,000 tickets, don't you?
Well, not even that. I think it's about 500 you get at Bournemouth.
Wow.
And I mean, that's a sort of separate debate, the whole thing about the away point scheme. I think, it's a completely different conversation. But, I spent, years and years and years going like home and away games. And I just happened, the year they bought the point scheme in, happened to be the year I took a year out to go traveling. So you come back and you almost there was no acknowledgement of any of your previous 10 years worth of going to Blackpool and Middlesbrough on Tuesday nights and all that sort of stuff. It is a struggle for lots of genuine fans, and lots of the people who do have points are often selling them on the quiet, which you're not supposed to do. But the point itself is probably now worth its weight in gold, is worth more than the actual ticket, because especially now we've been in Europe, when it comes to the big games, the games in Prague, like the final in Prague got 5,000 seats for, the point scheme. It's a controversial one, to say the least. But anyway, Patch, look, come on, we've got another game to talk about. I've just told you at the beginning of this podcast, I've just been offered 2 tickets in the away end. And I mean, it's Tuesday. Bristol's not miles away. I have been before to Ashton Gate, the 1-1. We spoke about this on the last podcast we did with Meth in the build up to the first game. Went to a 1-1. That was midweek as well. Look, that one got ignored when the point system come in. Flipping Tuesday night in Bristol, or 1-1, I think it was.
Yeah.
I have been before, but right, is it, while I'm weighing it up, which I am at the moment, talk to me. Is it worth my time from a West Ham point of view? Should I be jumping through all the necessary travel, work, and financial hoops in order to get myself down to Bristol City, or shall I just
I think
accept
it's,
that we're going out
I think
and watch it on the telly?
I think you should accept you're going out, but you should still come down. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere. It's going to be a full Ashton Gate. We've had some cracking evenings, and it's a night game as well, which always helps the atmosphere, I find. We've had some cracking night games in the past, more recent past, Man City, Man United, and Man City again, which are games that I'll never forget. And there will be a great atmosphere. Obviously, just over a third in terms of the number of people. Will be about 26,000, I reckon, down there tomorrow night. And it will. The players will be up for it. I'm sure your players will as well. When did you come down?
2013. That would have been 2012, 2013.
Okay,
season.
So yeah, you wouldn't have seen the South Stand or the Lansdowne Stand. You would have seen it in its old form, I would have thought.
I think I know the ones. I think one of them was there, maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe not, actually. No, I mean, you'll know better than me. Certainly the ones at the end.
Well, when we won the double, which was the 2014-15 season, the South Stand was being built then.
Yeah.
And the Lansdowne Stand came after that, I'm pretty sure.
But there we go then. No,
so I would say you're almost going to a brand new ground.
Yeah. Well, I must admit that's one of the reasons I normally go to sort of road grounds. If I've never been before, then I'm like, I'll make the effort. But it's going to be. I think you should go, mate. It's you might not be able to come to Ashton Gate again for a little while, and obviously. We'll be hoping to get promotion very, very soon, but there we go. It's easy for you to say, mate. Your team's likely to win the game. I got to drive 3 hours to watch my team lose, probably.
Well, I was just looking at I was looking at the odds. I thought we would be a little bit closer in on the odds, to be honest. I've got mine in decimals. West Ham are 1.85 to 1, and City are 4 to 1 in terms of the full-time result. But obviously, you've got a few injuries, but I'm sure the players that come in are still good players. But
you'd say that, mate. That's the thing. Driving all that way to watch Danny Ings play up front for 90 minutes is not the one. I made the mistake of flying all the way to Athens to watch that earlier in the season. And I'll be honest, mate, I don't think Bristol's got quite as many historical monuments to distract me from the football as Athens has. So, I'll give it some thought over the next couple of hours and see what's what. But look, talk to me about the game then. What are you expecting from your side? Are you sort of expecting them to, I suppose, now you've done all the hard work of getting the replay, you're not just going to sort of toss it off with a weakened side, I assume?
No, I think we'll probably start with the same side that we started last Sunday. We started with the same side Saturday, and obviously we lost 2-0 to Preston. Played well first half. I can't see many changes. Mark Sykes might be fit and available, who will probably start if he is fit on the right hand side of the 3. So it'd be probably the 4-2-3-1 formation. Sykes offers direct running at goal, a goal scorer as well. So I'm hoping that he's fit and able to play. We saw a debut on the weekend for Ross McCrory, who was our big summer sign-in from Aberdeen, who is a right-sided centre-back, right back. So whether he is able to play or not, he's only played 14 minutes in the last sort of, 7 months. So whether he's risked from the start, I don't know. But another option from the bench. And I think you'll see a similar performance and similar setup and side to what we saw at West Ham.
Oh dear. Well, look, I'm just going to do some live some live podcasting arranging here, right? So I've just texted my dad now and said, fancy Bristol City tomorrow night. Been offered 2 tickets, and just in case before we wrap up this chat, he gets back to me. You, you know, just for the West Ham listeners' point of view, it's one of those where we've obviously got Sheffield United on the weekend, and we beat them earlier in the season. Sort of, again, fans weren't really happy with the performance, but we did the business, got the points. You'd like to think we'd do the same this weekend, but it's really hard to sort of gauge what David Moyes is going to do because our squad is so weak and we haven't moved that quickly to bring any replacements in so far in those attacking positions. It's sort of hard to gauge what he's going to do with it. We haven't got loads of choice, really. We go to Sheffield United on Sunday, which obviously gives a little bit of a buffer. But yeah, I'm really unsure. I just sort of feel that David Moyes is clearly prioritising the Premier League and the Europa League, which I don't particularly mind. But now it's getting to the stage where he doesn't have loads of. It's not like, oh, you've got a load of fringe players who can come in. Mohamed Kudus is at AFCON. Paqueta injured, Bowen injured. It's just like, oh, is he going to rotate? It's like, no, that's just his players he's got.
Have you got? What's your academy sort of setup like? Because I mean, we've got such a small squad over the last 3 years because we've been sort of trimming it down due to COVID and fair play rules and all of that sort of stuff. That we've dipped into our academy massively in the last 2-3 years, and they've come through, and most of them have stuck, and they're now formed part of the first team. Have you got that to dip into?
Less so, to be honest. And that's one of the contentious issues among fans. You'll have lots of fans who will tell you that Moyes is terrible at bringing young players through. I'm, excuse me, of a completely different opinion, whereby it's just much, much, much harder these days, given that the Premier League, by its very nature, is a congregation of all the very, very, very best players on the entire planet. It's just much more difficult these days for Premier League clubs to have the time to bed these players in. You know, it was different with Declan Rice because we had less to lose. Now we're in the Europa League for the third season, or Europe for the third season running for the first time ever. We're sixth in the league. Fans are so fickle. There's so many people who will have you go, oh, it's, you know, ridiculous. He's not giving the young players enough time. I'm sorry. I don't care. Like, you can't have everything. Like, play our best players. Like, if for a couple of seasons that means limited chances for some academy products, I don't really mind, because, and is that among a lot of West Ham fans, you've got that sort of youth academy bias, if you know what I mean, whereby they convince themselves that because they want a youth academy product to do really well, that he's good enough and that they're really good. Divine Mabama is probably the closest you'll get, right? But if I'm honest, and I don't mean this in a facetious way, I think the chances are far, far higher that Divine Mabama will have a perfectly respectable professional football career. But if he spent 10 years, the example I've been using recently is Cardiff, but if he spent 5 seasons as Bristol City's main striker and scored 10 to 12 goals a season in the Championship for the majority of his career, that would not surprise me, right? I think he's a perfectly good football player, but perfectly good and perfectly fine doesn't cut it in the Premier League at all, let alone in the top level and the sort of areas of the table in Europe that West Ham are trying to punch in at the moment. So Ben Johnson, again, perfectly good, perfectly decent. He'll probably have like a bottom half of the Premier League, top half of the Championship player. I would be stunned if he doesn't get a Championship promotion medal with Norwich at some stage in his career after they boing up eventually. Like, that's the level our youth players are at. We had Declan Rice who came on and came into the team at a different time. So
do they loan these players out to the Championship, or do they sort of keep hold of them? How does it work? Because we had,
it's one of them, right?
our high profile one was Tammy Abraham came to us for a season, was player of the season, top goal scorer, went back to Chelsea, and now he's playing at Roma. So
right, but the difference there, right, is, and that's what I think the thing is, like you've just said, he came and he was top goal scorer and like shone, right? He was like standout.
Oh, yeah.
If you took Divine Mabama off us, who's our striking prospect, I'm not convinced that happens. I'm not convinced he shines and you go, blimey, he's on to bigger and better things. I'm pretty sure you probably go, yeah, he's all right. And you pay £5 million for him, and that's it. And that's the end of the story.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. But look, David Moyes, in my opinion, is sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment. Seems he's damned if he doesn't, damned if he doesn't.
Well,
but listen, Patch,
I don't know.
Absolutely brilliant. Go on.
I was going to say, I don't know. I think Matt mentioned it, but David Moyes has got a bit of a soft spot, and we've got a bit of a soft spot for him. He was playing in the team when I first started watching Bristol City. He was with us when we had our first ever trip to Wembley Stadium, and we won the Freight Rover Trophy, as it was. And obviously Rob Newman is there as well in the recruitment space. So yeah, we've got those connections with West Ham, and as I say, massively enjoyed the day Sunday and really looking forward to Tuesday night as well.
Happy days, mate. Happy days. Well, look, I did genuinely hope that you all enjoyed yourself at London Stadium. I'm glad to hear that you did. I don't think if I do make the decision to go down to Ashton Gate tomorrow night, I will enjoy myself half as much. However, I'll keep you posted on whether I decide to make the journey or not. But I mean, my girlfriend's sister lives in Bristol, so I technically have a place to stay. But trying to get back to London for 7 o'clock in the morning the next day sound that appealing to me.
You need to get that bit sorted.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Look, Patch Warner there from Three Peeps in a Podcast, Bristol City fan podcast, of course. Do listen to their stuff. We encourage you to do that last week when we had Math on. Great to speak to you, Patch. Hope you enjoyed the game. Tuesday night FA Cup replay, West Ham United away at Bristol City. Just a heads up, you'll have another opposition view from me, Will Pugh, later this week, ahead of the trip to Sheffield United in the Premier League on Sunday. That's all you'll hear. And then James Jones and me will be back for the usual format next week. But we'll do our best. Jonesy's starting a new job. Things are a bit hectic, so we'll do our best to get it all out in the usual time slot earlier in the week. But if you have to wait a day or two, do forgive us. Do also follow us on all the usual social channels at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter, We Are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Email us at wearewesthampod@gmail.com if you want. And if you fancy buying us a pint, listen, if I'm going down to Bristol City, I'm going to have at least a pint or two. So if you fancy
Thatcher's Gold, will you drink? Will you drink the cider?
No. Those are the old days.
That's the drink of choice for most people down in Bristol.
Right, there we go. Look,
you have to do that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if anyone buys us a pint, buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. If any of those come in between now and the game and I'm going, I'll buy myself a couple of Thatcher's Gold, put them up on Twitter and tag you in it. But yeah, leave us a review, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. I mean, most of you listened to this before, you know the housekeeper stuff. I always forget at least one of them. But subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the other one as well. You'll get this interview with Patch on there. But thanks for listening, everyone. You'll hear from me again later this week with the opposition view, and me and Jonesy back as usual next week. West Ham are massive up the hammers, and we'll see you then.